Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a battle report of my practice game against Fyreslayers for the Bloodstorm tournament that was held in Eindhoven. So this was the list that I was practicing with. Maybe it's a bit small for you guys. So we have two regiments. Well, I do have Sentinels of the Bleak Citadels and then Primal Energy. So Primal Energy just to give me some cheap spells, Sentinels just to give the Reclusions in the list a 5-up ward save. What do we have? We have the Celestin Prime, we have Lord Terminals with Quicksilver Draft and Shock and Awe. It's a combination that I was trying for the first time this tournament. Then a big reinforced unit of Reclusions, unit of Vanguard Raptors with long strike, crossbows, and then the Palaros with Javelins non-reinforced, and then I have a Knight Arcanum and 2 units of Quaestor Soulsworn. It also says that I have the Stormreach portal, but I do not own any Stormreach portal, so I will not play with one either. Yeah, so that is the list. Let's just see how this went, basically. So I'm just gonna scroll through all the pictures that I took. List of my opponent. I don't have all the details to be honest, but he had a small unit of Berserkers. Then he had a Grimhold Exile. He had a very big unit of 20 vanilla Fyreslayer combat guys. He had 10 Fyreslayer shooty guys. Heathguard now, I think. Then Berserkers, 10 of them. A little foot hero priest. Then 10 Berserkers. Magma Dwarf with a Auric Rune Fodder, and then he had another Magma Dwarf with a priest, I believe. So this is the first time that I will be playing against Fyreslayers, so I don't really know what to expect. But by now I have a bit of a general setup of what my army looks like after deployment. So what do we have? We have a unit of Quaestor Soulsworn, we have the Celestin Prime, we have a Knight Arcanum, and a Vanguard Raptors with the Javelins. This means that I can put in reserve Lord Terminals, True Collusions, the long strike, and lastly another unit of Quaestor Soulsworn, and that rounds out the list. So it's in Stormcast I found it pretty comfortable to have an even number of units, so that you can put as much as possible in the skies if you want to. Some of you might be wondering why the Prime is on the table, because he has a fancy rule to deploy him later in the game, a bit closer to the enemy. Then again, move 12 and then charging is likely less far away than an 8-inch charge even in turn 2, so I prefer to just have him on the table. It's quite easy to keep him out of danger, he's quite easy to still move around. So yeah, I like having him on the table. He also has a shooting attack that chips some damage, and it's a bigger threat zone, I find, than deploying 8 inches away. Because I can also redeploy and then do the 12-inch move, obviously. So we are playing Scorched Earth with the 8 objectives that you can burn at the end of your turn. It's one that is a bit difficult maybe for Fyreslayers, but yeah, we will see how it works out. So honor guard wise, my opponent chose the Grimhold Exile to be his honor guard so that he gets +2 move on the field sergeant. I took the same for my Lord Terminus because I just wanted to try out that ability. Otherwise, deployment wise, so my opponent basically drops on the line. I am able to give him the first turn because he has 3 drops and I only have 2. So with the move 6 and then run and charge, he can effectively move 6 because of the field sergeant. He can move 6, run another 6, so do 12 and then do a charge. I put these guys at a distance where if my opponent really goes as far possible as possible, then I might have to redeploy a little bit away. But in any other case, I don't really even have to redeploy away because the feet of these dwarves are just too tiny. We have an objective or an indication of where the center is of the table, and otherwise we're basically ready to go. So for my deployment, well, I have these guys on one flank, I have the Soulsworn on the other flank ready to grab the objective on the left. I did want to put something on every objective, just because it would be more difficult than for my opponent to score 10 in the first turn of the game, and he's not going to take anything from me in the first turn. I think this is a bit of a weakness of Fyreslayers, that they're not mobile enough to go on the enemy objective first turn. So I do give the first turn to my opponent. Let's see. Oh, you have a bit of an amazing shot of some Vanguard Paladors and the army of my opponent. Hula, that's a 3. Wow. So yeah, Fyreslayer's turn 1, and afterwards my turn. So he goes for take the flanks with his beast and his berserkers. The berserkers, they run up. He didn't take run and charge this round. I don't think he took any runes. So you have about 5 runes or something that you can activate, which means that as an opponent, or at least to me, it made sense if he would use a rune every single turn. But then again, if you use a rune, you cannot use it for the rest of the game. So sometimes it's actually better to not use a rune at all. And that is what I discovered this game. So my opponent's turn, he moves up for take the flanks and he scores 8 points. My turn, so my opponent actually made a bit of a hole here, ready for a drop down from the heavens with my other unit of Quaestor Soulsworn. I did take Slay the Entourage because I was quite confident that I could kill this guy with the long strikes and the Quaestor Soulsworn, which I could redeploy actually, move up and then charge in, hopefully. Or did I take Do Not Waver? I think I might have taken. I think I went for Slay the Entourage because I didn't expect on the right side to also actually engage his troops. And then we had a little bit of a chat about the stat lines and stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe my Paladros can actually deal with this, or at least reduce the amount of bodies there. And as you can see, the blob over here kind of stayed where it was. Don't know if my opponent was really afraid of my potential first turn to go in there, but I would have expected him to move up more aggressively. Then again, I think this setup for him is really bad, just because of all the deep strike that I have in the list. So I did want to put the reclusions down already, just to be able to charge my opponent with a closer charge in the next round. Also being able to redeploy. Like dropping down from the heavens with Stormcast for a 9-inch charge doesn't feel good to me. There's people who risk it, obviously, but I don't really want to. I just want to get better at the game, to be honest. And then dropping it like here in the middle is quite risky because my opponent can put in a lot of units to annihilate my stuff. Even though I might have had to do that. That could have been a better option. I just didn't know how much damage came out of these units, to be honest, because it's the first time that I'm playing against the Fyreslayers. All in all, the Quaestor Soulsworn do make their charge against my opponent's character. The long strikes already deal some damage to him, and I do manage to make my battle tactic. Let's see, here we do have the removal of his model. I think this is just at the end of the turn. So I also clean up actually the berserkers on the other side, which I did not expect, because they just seemed more impressive than they actually were. And then a bit later into the game, I think this is after my turn too. So my opponent, he moved up with. This was actually quite an impressive move. So my mage is hiding out here in the corner. It's going to be my opponent's turn too. I countercast a Gnashing Jaws because I thought, well, probably it'll be useful in the next round after. And then my opponent actually managed to charge it with this big unit of whatever they are called, just a 20-man unit. He went for run and charge this round, trying to just get in there. And then this is once again after my turn. So the Gnashing Jaws did survive the initial onslaught, and then in my turn I could actually counter a bit. So this is, I believe, after my movement, and I'm just about to declare my charges. So my opponent did make a little wall here of dwarves with the magma dwarf behind. I think the run and charge that they did was actually from the Grimold Exile, because he did put down his strike first in this round. So everything in his army is strike first now, which makes them actually quite scary. So these are berserkers, these are berserkers, these are just the foot dwarfs, and these are the shooters. I am not very tempted to go into his army this turn, actually. I have a couple of things that maybe could go in, like the reclusions and terminals. They could go in because I can strike first with terminals, but then I cannot chain into the reclusion. So basically, it's not the best option. The prime, I thought, well, he can go in because he can survive the initial onslaught to then whop out a lot of damage himself. And otherwise, I don't have that much. I think it's also the round where I took Do Not Waver as a battle tactic. So the tricky thing there is that your opponent, the Fyreslayer opponent, can decide to take the strike first after you've taken your battle tactic. So I think Do Not Waver is just one that you shouldn't do against Fyreslayers, which is something that I learned this game, which is pretty neat. Otherwise, so yeah, the prime, I do decide that he goes in. The Quest of Soulsworn are still smacking the terrain piece, so I do have my 2 units in mind to make the objective or the battle tactic. And then prime goes in. My opponent, he dishes out with his berserkers, and he actually kills the prime. So in one shot, my prime is just gone. I had put on Finest Hour on these guys. I should have probably put it on the prime. I was expecting to go in with a bit more units, but then as stuff progressed during the turn, I started to doubt a bit. And I think it was also not the best anyways to take Do Not Waver. Like, I could also just play the avoidance game a bit, go for Reclaim the Realms. I have the long strikes in one. I have the Knight Arcanum who could have gone to the other side. I have the very mobile Vanguard Balros, and I have a unit of Soulsworn that together they could just very easily score Reclaim the Realms. So might as well have done that. I still have a Take the Land also that I could have done automatically. And then for the later turns I could still have taken something else, but Do Not Waver was definitely not needed against Fyreslayers. So afterwards, yeah, you see that the prime is gone. This is basically after combat. So he does kill the Jaws, but I had already also charged in a Burning Head just at the edge of his unit in the hope that he would just survive, and that is actually what he did. So this unit is still locked up in combat, which was massive. Just because, well, now my Paladors and the Reclusions are rather safe. Like, a unit of Berserkers can go into either of them, but yeah, that's just going to be everything. My opponent this turn is looking at the table and he goes like, well, can't really go for anything in terms of battle tactics. Mostly because if I go for Do Not Waver, probably one of my units is going to die. Take the Land would be automatic, but he wanted to save that for a later round, which I think is also fair. But on the other hand, if I get a turn and I get to go into these guys with my Reclusions, then the picture might be a little bit different. So I think he actually went for that this round, but I think I convinced him that this was the round to do this. Should stop doing that. For a practice game it's good, but for a tournament game I shouldn't. So yeah, he saw the board state and he was like, oh, these Vanguard Raptors, they actually look quite tasty. They look within range if I run and charge, and other stuff is also in range. I am remembering now that he actually took Slay the Entourage on the Vanguard Paladors. So he went for run and charge. These guys ran up to go into the long strikes. This guy ran up to go into the long strikes. These guys went towards the Paladors, and I redeployed with a 6 to give him a 9-inch charge. However, he is better at making 9-inch charges than I am, so he made it. And then these are the berserkers that killed the Paladors. This is a little bit later in the game. Um, apparently, this is a very important point on the table. So what is happening? As you can see, the left flank is quite empty. I do have another Gnashing Jaws that has been cast during the game sometime. And yeah, this is empty because there's only one berserker left at this point. The big guy got slain by terminals and his reclusions. He had to endure a bit of covering fire from the long strikes, and then later combat just finished him off, together with a lot of the berserkers. The Quest of Sourceborn, they knocked up the furnace and they moved in towards the middle of the field a bit. Here we have the other unit of Quest of Sourceborn that was in the corner, dishing it out with this ranged unit, and then this unit I actually just want to leave alone for now, and I have more objectives than my opponent. I would like to take one away from him just so that he cannot score 2 objectives. But battle tactic wise, I'm doing well. Like I did take the land this turn, I believe, and I still have some stuff to do for the next turn. Whilst my opponent is kinda on the end of his battle tactics. So I do also have a unit of long strikes that came back, just to do a little bit of range damage, because these dwarves, they don't really like range damage, and I like doing range damage to stuff that doesn't like it. So yeah, that worked out quite well. Yeah, the Jaws went into here, the Reclusions went into here. This is where Field Sergeant on the terminals was a massive help, because you can see the distance that these guys cleared. It's quite impressive. So I think it was a redeploy. So in the combat phase, my turn, they killed this guy. Then in his turn, I did a redeploy. Then in my turn, I moved, and then I charged into the dwarves over here that were just chomping away on a Gnashing Jaws. So the Gnashing Jaws and the Reclusions together, they mopped up this quad, and I could go on the objective there, and this, yeah, basically also evaporated, making it a solid win for the Stormcast, which was, I think it was well in line with what I expected at the start of the game. Like when I saw this, I was like, okay, that's a rather immobile blob of mostly infantry. Sure, you have +2 move. This guy should have been here. My opponent quickly realized and moved him over there to just get more mobility everywhere. But he needed it for take the flanks. Then again, this guy could also start here just with these guys on the edge, barely in range for the Field Sergeant bonus, and then he could march on to there to move up this a bit faster. That's all possible. But even then, like the Paladors, they can kill like 4 dwarfs a turn or so. This guy can kill 2 dwarfs a turn, 1 dwarf a turn with his ranged attack. Long strikes can kill, I don't know, probably 5 dwarfs, 6 dwarfs a turn. Then it starts to whittle down really quickly already. There's just no saves in the army. And I'm not even bringing that much range attack. Then even after, in combat, my Quest of Soulsworn, they stack up quite nicely to his troops. So the Berserkers, when they strike first, they have one round where it's absolutely obliterating. Like striking down a Prime in one go, it was impressive, even though probably not very likely. And I should have put Finest Tower on this guy, to be honest. But yeah, just turning out my opponent, walking around him, not engaging in the first turn. So my thing of just playing a bit avoidance, having a unit on the flanks to try to drag him this way instead of the other way. My opponent can't really commit this 20-man unit to my Paladors, because then they are practically gone from the rest of the table. These guys are not gonna do anything there. So he basically needs this unit over there. but he doesn't have it over there, and he doesn't have the resources to move it over there. So what I was later thinking is that maybe the long strikes I should have played them more central, just to shoot up him a bit more reliable. But then again, 18 inches, he still had the run and charge available. Run and charge means if the field sergeant is in the neighborhood, 6-inch move, 6-inch run, and then 6-inch charge. If I redeploy, I can make it a bit further, but I don't really want to rely on it, and then also my opponent can chain into any other unit and still go into the long strikes. Then again, shooting in my turn, covering fire in his turn, there's not going to be that much left either. So maybe I should have just put the long strikes a bit more central. Could have also used the prime and the reclusions together to form a screen that my opponent really has to go around. Because the mobility is just not there. So I could have faced this part a bit more face on. I think that would have been better, because then the long strikes would have been more protected and be more involved in the game as well. Not quite easily to snipe out as in this scenario. Like, this is a big gap, and I don't really know why I left it there. It's also, if you're in the mindset that the dwarves are slow, then I didn't really notice that this guy could still move like 14 inches and run and charge. So he's like nearly as mobile as these guys. Yeah. So overall, I'm really happy with the list. It was a good preparation for Bloodstorm. I think it's a list that plays a bit more wide, very comfortably, but has a little bit issues with stuff like Scorched Earth. So yeah, we'll see how it goes in the tournament itself. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you then next time.